more chaos and less concept. So, yeah, we're alive. That's a good start.
Mhm.
I would say let's start as the last times. Meaning, I mean, how was your week? Do you have anything you want to mention? Maybe some interesting stuff you read, whatever, somebody getting on your nerves, or your job, or whatever.
Uh, Nothing really interesting. I mean, uh, I'm not really, you know, I don't really go out and do a lot of things normally before the pandemic. I mean, the yesterday, the most exciting thing, I guess, I picked up a new pair of shoes, and that's as exciting as I get. So,
Well, you streamed yesterday, and I remember that I was in your chat, and I wanted to ask if you drink. So some people in your chat wanted to. They were mentioning some brand of beer and saying, "Bring and buy that beer." And you were saying, "I normally don't drink, and I don't drink alone." And I said, "Yeah, I buy
yeah.
shoes. I could buy the beer." And my head wrote, "So you will buy the new shoes to drink the beer out of the shoes, obviously, don't you?" But yeah. So how did the beer taste? And did you drink it out of your shoes?
I didn't drink it out of my shoes. It's called a White Claw.
Boo.
It's kind of some.
Okay.
It's like this kind of I don't know if you call it hip or something, like kind of drink where uh I guess maybe like a kind of trendy drink.
Okay.
It's like a sparkling water but it has alcohol and flavoring,
Okay.
and it's called a hard seltzer. And I got the black cherry, uh the flavor of it, and it's okay, but it needs a little more sweetener. I don't know if you've ever had something that's like got a like a like a fruit flavor, but there's not enough sweetener in there, so it tastes like kind of
Uh,
medicine-y. So
no, I never had it, and I would like to have that because it's for me. I rarely drink such things, and most and I don't drink soft drinks and all, and even most juices are too sweet for me or for my taste. So
mm-hmm,
I so I only eat. So obviously, sometimes when you buy food somewhere or when you um, I don't know, have some finished meal basically or like a frozen meal or stuff. There may be
mm-hmm,
sugar in it, and mostly also a lot. But so for mostly what I eat, the only sugar I eat is honey, and I use it in
mm-hmm,
my tea and sometimes to sweeten what I cook. But so it's not much in it. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
so most things are easily too sweet for me, so I don't know that at all.
Mm, interesting. Yeah, like I haven't really had any kind of booze in like I would say like 4 years. I mean, uh it's not a case that I don't like I'm against it, but I just didn't have a really good reason to go pick up a six pack or anything like that. So I just don't drink.
Yeah, and it's a good choice. Choice. I have too many reasons, and I can't even name them. It's like just like, oh, I
Yeah.
finished work. That's a good
Yeah.
one, for example. So there are too many. Oh, I like beer. It's cold. you know,
Yeah.
there are so many good reasons after time. Um,
Yeah. I feel kind of bad for people who like need a beer after work. It's like, man, is it that bad? Like, I mean, I guess sometimes it is, but uh, I mean,
yeah, it's
if
after you.
um, it just seems like if you need a beer after work or on the, I don't know, it just depends. Work can get really stressful, but like if you need a beer after work, like all year long, then it might be time for another job or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, you're sure. You're right, definitely. But I think this is with most stuff. Obviously, it's different for people, but it's kind of something that comes in slowly and then becomes a habit, and
Mm-hmm.
then
Yeah.
and then and then there comes a time where people realize, okay, well, you know, maybe I'm drinking too much or whatever. I mean, this can happen in a lot of different variants with different stuff. Watching television,
Yeah.
whatever, drinking beer, and then and even when you then realize that, I mean, that's a good first step, but
Yeah.
afterwards you have to change it, and if you've
It's
done
the
that before for a long time, you will get, depending on what it is, psychical, and depending on what it is, physical I don't know what the word is. Effects when you withdraw from something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not
Um,
so easy.
and for me, that like I've never been a heavy drinker. Like I drank with friends and stuff like that. I just never had the craving to like say, hey, let's go out and go drinking. Like um, I'd rather just hang out with friends, and if there's booze there, then we drink. If not, then whatever. But my bad habit's been like sugar and bad foods, and uh, so forever, like since I was a kid, like I've just loved drinking soda and love eating sweets and
Yeah.
hamburgers and French fries and all that, and now I realize I've known all along that's because I'm heavy. That's the reason. It's like I'm putting this bad food in my mouth, but like
Yeah.
now I'm trying to cut back, and now I see like, oh, that's why people have a trouble um quitting smoking, quitting drinking, quitting this or that, or like it's a hard there's some habits that are just hard to break.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Especially depending on how long you're in that habit,
Yeah.
and most of the
Yeah.
time. So when somebody does that, I will go on with the drinking example now.
Hmm.
So they don't know at the start that they do that to maybe, I mean, it's not solving, but to do something with their problems and worries, maybe. I don't know, to
Yeah.
flood them down for a certain time,
Yeah.
maybe. Or
Yeah.
it's something, or it can also be something like, you have to work in different shifts, and you have 3 different shifts, and then you have to sleep, but you're not tired, but you have to sleep. Otherwise, you will be
Yeah.
there 10 hours and you won't have slept before. And then what do you do? So, and there
Yeah.
are also some people that then try sleeping pills, or some people that
Hmm.
drink. For example, obviously all that is not good, but it's also not good to work against your biological clock. I worked so long in shift systems, and it's so horrible when you have a late shift. So
Yeah.
when I had late shift, so in different jobs, but it's basically like, that's also a stupid law. So the minimum time in Germany that has to be in between 2 shifts is 11 hours, unless you work in healthcare, and it's 10 hours. I never
Mm.
understood why, especially that's 1 hour, but it's still not enough, because you have to think, when it's like something, okay, you now work for 1 week during that time, and you're not used to the other time, and then from one day to the next, they should have put something in there like, okay, you can't change um your schedule from one day to the other, something like
Yeah.
that. So there has to be a day pause in between, so people can at least have a chance to kind of change their biorhythm.
Yeah.
And even though this still is probably pretty unhealthy. So I don't know, but I heard science wise, it's like proven that people have different biorhythms depending. So some people being night owls and being really creative and productive during the night, but
Hmm.
are really like in the morning. Or I feel with them. I also think I'm more on that side. But yeah, and then with most jobs, you obviously get forced to a rhythm. What I
Yeah.
wanted to ask, to the thing that you said before, regarding the food example. So, did you know when you grew up, was
Hmm.
there healthy food, or did you already eat that, and then were on your own and
Um, in Texas, we have what we call Southern cuisine. Like in the south of the U.S., there's
uh-huh.
what we call Southern cuisine, and that's like fried chicken, mashed potatoes, lots of butter in our like cuisine.
Yeah,
Uh,
okay, it's
so
really
it's very
fatty, right?
unhealthy. Now there is like uh, there is the reason that we have that is because like before uh, 100 years ago, you know we had slaves and we had people who weren't slaves but they were poor, and a lot of people worked the fields, like growing corn or cotton or whatever,
Yeah,
and it's hot in the south of the US especially during the summer. So in order to be able to work the fields, you need a lot of energy. So you need a lot of either sugar or carbs or salt in your
Yeah,
body because you're gonna sweat every day. So these are very so to provide that we created stuff like fried chicken and lemonade and mashed potatoes and meals with a lot of butter in them so that you're getting a lot of that fat and that salt
yeah.
that your body needs to work. But the problem is that like now that
We are no farmers anymore, but sit in
yeah,
front of our desks eating that
exactly.
buttery chicken. Yeah,
Yeah, and exactly. And now that catches up with you. So I mean, that's part. As a kid, it was just part of the family that we had uh, fatty meals,
yeah,
and so that was just me growing up. I didn't know better, and food is delicious. So I'm not going
yeah.
to
It
eat it. I
is
mean, I'm not going to
definitely.
push it aside, but we
Yeah, I
just
mean,
didn't get enough vegetables and stuff like that
yeah,
growing up.
yeah. I think that has a lot to do with yeah, with how you yeah, what do you experience when you grow up a lot? But obviously it can change. I mean, there are children that have hippie parents and they only eat organic food from
Yeah,
top-notch gardens, and then they become punks when they are 18 and live on the street and only eat the McDonald's. So
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, so it's not like. But I think it has a big effect, and what's also a big part in there obviously is the industry, because
yeah.
obviously I mean, the industry also changed. But when I was a child, I remember seeing the McDonald's advertisements where Ronald McDonald as a clown was going around, and I wanted to go there because I liked the clown. So, and yeah, so obviously there's also a lot of marketing and stuff involved with what we like. So, I mean, if there's a fancy advertisement during uh, true cartoons on Saturday morning, if there are even still cartoons on the weekends, I don't know.
Yeah,
And there's an advertisement for the new McDouble Extra.
right,
And my parents tell me about healthy food, I will fucking get 10 McDouble Extra
right.
to, to
I
eat.
mean,
Yeah, after.
yeah, as kids, like McDonald's is delicious, right? French fries and hamburgers and soda, it's all delicious. I mean, unless like you don't, unless you're particular that you're like soda's too sweet for you or whatever,
Yeah,
But in general, I think for kids, McDonald's is delicious, and as you said, the Happy Meal, it comes with a toy, and of
yeah,
course, if it's a Ninja Turtles toy or a GI Joe or whatever it is, if it's like the new toy that people want, um, it's more reason to go there. And then, of course, McDonald's is just about making delicious food, but not healthy food, and it's just as cheaply as it can to make money. So it's like all these things are part of why ours here in the US are. It's not just McDonald's, of course, but like it's those are just some reasons that why we're so unhealthy, why we're so fat.
yeah. Yeah, and it goes so fast. So I gotta say, sadly, I always was like, okay, I'm pretty good. So apart from, I don't know, I never was in a fitness studio or something like that, but I always was driving everywhere per bike, and you know,
Hmm.
so I was playing football. So I was always kind of like a little bit trained and could eat what I want whenever I want, and I never cared about it. But I always was like, okay, I rarely eat sugar, and so I liked a lot of things that were healthy also. Um, and then at a I don't know, maybe 2 years ago something. So I don't know what the word is. And I always thought about that before. So
Hmm.
wait, I have to pull up a dictionary to try to translate that.
Hmm.
Yeah, your metabolism changes, kinda.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it was like I could eat that and it was fine always, and I would never weigh anything more. And then it changed, and all
Hmm.
of a sudden I was like, "Whoop, da-dup, 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 oops."
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You brought up another thing is that if you walk like as a kid, if you walk everywhere and you bicycle everywhere and you play sports, then yeah, you're gonna burn off a lot of of your
Yeah.
food. And I didn't like, I just liked, even as a kid, like computers and like sitting at a computer. I didn't like sports. And so, eating this unhealthy food, not exercising enough, of course, I got heavy. I've always been heavy. Um, but in America, like, especially in the city, like you've just got to drive everywhere. Like our cities are built, so you've got to drive everywhere.
Yeah.
You can possibly bicycle and possibly, I mean, either drive or you get the bus or something like that. But
Yeah.
we don't really build our cities so that you walk or you take the bike. Like those are kind of
Yeah.
just afterthoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one thing leads to the other, I guess, in that case. Huh?
Hmm. Yeah, it's just a lot of reasons that we're unhealthy.
Yeah. Yeah, but on the other hand, it's good for the pharma industry, so they can bring out more pills. So we can, yeah, obviously, this is a little bit sarcastic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And I guess I guess it's in that way it's profitable if you're profiting off of the problem, and then you're on the other hand profiting off the solution or the supposed solution to it.
interestingly, there. So, well, friends of my cousin, they are well, they are really really big. Oh, well,
Yeah.
fat, I will just say it now. So, and they decided to change it, and they tried everything, and it kind of didn't work. And then
Hmm.
so my cousin told me this. I saw them once. I don't really know them, and they were trying. It's called formula diet,
Hmm.
um, which I kind of find pretty scary. After I just read it because they told me what they do, and afterwards I went to the internet and read, okay, what is this even? So
Hmm.
they are paying lots of money for
Hmm.
kind of I think it was for 1 week like 120 or 140 for 1 week, and it's just a powder, and in the powder
Mm.
is everything you kind of need, you know. So and then
Right.
they don't eat at all, and they use that 3 months, only that stuff, and obviously they lose a lot of weight. I mean,
Hmm.
it's yeah, you know, and it's supposed to be all the nutrients in there. I then just googled it and found out that every of those powders, because I found them ranging from, I don't know, something like $80 to $200 a week,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
they are all the same. So per law, there has to be the same in there, so that the body has everything. They only change the taste
Yeah.
and put different prices. And then they said also that you should. So basically, they said you should only do this with a doctor to
Right.
watch over you, and you shouldn't do it more than 3 months, so you will hurt yourself pretty badly. And the first thing that I saw after this, how, I mean, I get it, and it worked really great for them. They lost tons of weight, but how are they supposed? I mean, they have to change their whole style of
Yeah.
eating, and this is the
Yeah.
thing that they would have done before. Otherwise, they will go back there or can, you know. So yeah, that's the same thing. We also talked about that a lot about the health system, like treating what happens and not the cause. I don't
Right. Right.
know. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Like if you want to lose weight, yeah, there's probably 100 ways to do it. But like if you want to keep it off, there's only one way to do it, and that's to keep on eating healthily.
Yeah, and there's
Y-
also this hard thing with you need discipline, you know,
Yeah.
like with a lot of
Yeah.
things in life. I'm also not that good in yeah regarding that.
Uh, Unfortunately, just it just seems like from my cynical perspective, like Americans just want like the quick fix. Oh, if I need to lose weight, give me these pills. If I need to, uh, if something needs to happen with the criminal justice, something. Oh, let me just vote for this guy and hopefully he gets fixed. And I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, to do the hard work or whatever. Like, I don't. It just like people want like an easy fix. They want a politician who says, "Yeah, I'll do this and I'll do this," and
Yeah,
if it doesn't,
it's
and if
also
the person doesn't like do anything, they'll still believe them because they don't want to actually like sit down and research like what
yeah.
politicians are actually doing what, and it's just a lot of that in our case, I
Yeah,
think.
I think there's a lot of these activism where you don't have to know anything. It's just like, okay, something bad happens, so better loudly say something about it so you're on the
Yeah.
right, you know? So this thing. So, and then it's like, okay, he said something. Why haven't you said something, Mr. I don't know, politician, vice president, whatever, you know? So it's then, yeah. So,
Yeah, to put it like in a more like in a current events kind of way, like there in recent history in the U.S. there was some police brutality against like some white uh, police officers, killing and
hmm hmm
beating black people, and so there's this like civil unrest, which is perfectly okay. But like I think some of that, and not that's a good thing. It's a good thing that people are speaking out and trying to enact change because it's a real problem and it really needs to get fixed. But I
yeah,
think some small part of those people are like, well, I'll buy the T-shirt, the Black Lives Matter T-shirt. I'll go march once or twice and then go home and then think it's done. Like no, it's like it's a hard problem and you need to keep at it and you need to keep informed and keep like voting and talking. Like
yeah,
it's an ongoing process. Same like if you need to lose health, it's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing discipline.
yeah,
Same
that's
if you
right.
need change in your government or whatever. And people, it seems like Americans just a lot of Americans don't want to do that. They just want to go home, watch their TV, their Netflix or
But
whatever.
I,
Yeah.
I think you're right, and this is a general thing, you know, the carrot in front of our noses. So like,
Yeah.
no, but but you also, I think with all these movements, it's
Hmm.
like, so most a lot obviously like Black Lives Matter. Yeah, this is totally right. This has to happen, but a
Hmm.
lot of these movements also, and this is a normal thing. So some people will just maybe buy the shirt and sit on the couch. There will also
Yeah.
be people
Yeah.
just using that to do other stuff under, you know,
Yeah.
for example, here in Germany, there are people that like to go to demonstrations. You will go to
Hmm.
a lot different demonstrations, and some go there to because, for example, they hate the police, you know,
Right.
and obviously
Right.
they will not help the cause if they throw a stone at the police when they are at a
Right.
demo and the demo gets cancelled, you know, stuff like
Right.
that. So and also there are people that use that stuff to show something like that, you know, that to show a certain perspective or throw a certain light
Yeah.
on something. So
Yeah.
this is also yeah, pretty dangerous. And what's also is pretty bad is blind activism. Is like, okay, this is right, everything for that, don't say anything against that, you know. It's supposed
Yeah.
to be
Hmm.
an open dialogue, otherwise nothing can be changed. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, sadly, as you said, it's a thing. It obviously needs time. And
Hmm.
I only see news from time to time, and obviously we know that news are not always the reality or show just a glimpse of that. So I don't know how good or bad it really is, but yeah, saw a lot of different things. So and like with news, always they mostly don't. I guess they won't show that much of peaceful protest. So they mostly show something, I don't know, people looting or beating up other people they think are from the other side, or you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
so like going back to losing weight, like I know I've known for a long time, and this is one topic that we were discussing, like on the like motivation is one thing we could talk about, but like in order for me to lose weight and keep it off, I've got to just avoid the soda and the sweets and the fast food, and I'm doing better. I'm just not doing it enough, and it's kind of hard to
Yeah,
keep it up. I've got to do it day after day after day, and like nonstop. And even just yesterday, I had to go get new shoes, and I was hungry, and I was like, well, there's a burger restaurant along the way, so I was hungry, and it smelled
you
good, so
don't
I
have to
went in.
cook, and yeah, yeah, sure,
Yeah,
I know that.
so it's hard to stick to it.
Yeah. Maybe we should do like once a month or so. We should do a stupid challenge, like with something so for example, like, yeah, I wanted to buy shoes, I need them for 1 year, but I just didn't get one. I said, okay, I challenge you to buy shoes during the next week. And I said, something like that is just a funny idea for him. I had it. Anyway,
it's weird because like I've needed shoes for a while now. Like they're at the bottom, they're flat, and it's just for some reason I just hate to go. It's not like it's like a big deal to do it. It's just I hate to do it. You know, it's weird.
I feel that. I feel that. I'm the same. So for me, when I go and buy stuff, so apart from that, these days I often also order stuff, so I don't even have to go. But before there was the order thing, it was like, oh no, fuck. So I have two trousers left, and one is getting getting a hole. So I better go out get new clothes. And then
I hate shopping for clothes.
I hate shopping for everything. I hate shopping for everything. So I'm kind of the guy that it's just get in, get out as quick, and have my And I'm also talking about before pandemic, nothing with that. So I was always like, I don't like to do that. And when I would go out and then, for example, I find a trouser that fits me, and that's okay. Then we'll just buy 4 or 5 of these.
Yeah, so you don't have to like come back.
So I don't have to worry. And I remember so many feelings when it was like, so for example, I also did this with shoes. I don't know, I would just mostly buy 2 or something like that. And then the shoes were gone and I liked them. And I went to that store and I bought them there. And I've done that over 3 years. And I go there and they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
World breaks together. No.
It's kind of funny because like, I mean, now that I think about it, it's funny that like, we don't have to make our own clothes. We don't have to make our own shoes. We just have to drive over and spend whatever half an hour to pick them up. But we don't even want to do that. It's like we're so spoiled.
Spoiled. Definitely.
And that's just part of the, I guess, bad habit we have to break. Like, oh, if you need new clothes, just go do it, and it won't be so bad. It's just we don't want to do it. It's so
okay, stupid. Brilliant. I have one. So my first challenge is you have to make your own shoes. Okay. Anyway, no, it's just fun. It is a bit hard.
I don't even know how to start. Like I don't even know how to craft anything.
Yeah, I will. So probably next week you will send me a photo, and then there will be some plastic bag zipped around your foot. I've done it.
That'll work for me.
Yeah. Anyway, the kind of main topic. So normally we just go from wherever the wind blows. So we never know before, but we tend to have one main or fallback topic. And today it's death penalty, and Twitch wasn't allowing me to write it in the title. So
yeah, because I was gonna and one stream I was of my own, I was gonna do like whatever retro torture or something like that, because I was gonna just play this difficult retro game, and but they wouldn't allow the word. The torture was blocked, so I couldn't. I had to say something else.
This is an interesting thing. I want to talk about it actually. So what do you think about? I mean, this is kind of a new thing that a lot of stuff gets banned like this, and I mean, I will just say. So you can have different opinions on it, but. So one thing that I think in my head is, okay, but they are just words. Why do you give them that might? So why? So it's like I can say really bad stuff with only positive words that will hurt someone. I mean, I won't do. It's just like and it reminded me a little bit about people in Germany discussing about changing old books because some stuff. From the old language today is offensive to some people. Yeah. And I said, and don't read a fucking book. So that's my opinion. You can't change the story and stuff from the author because I don't know. I don't care whatever group or whoever. But if you feel offended from that, I think
just don't read
well,
it.
I
Yeah.
will. It's your problem. So,
Right.
so yeah, and obviously there's stuff, and you can get offended. Not everything is good, but you also don't
Right.
have to read everything. And it's not like hanging on your town, but it's a book that you can read, and everyone knows it's from maybe, I don't know, from 1930, and back then they were talking different and had different opinions.
Right.
It felt so wrong to butcher that because, well, you know,
Right. Right. I mean,
there.
it's stupid, I think, to try to change history like that, like to revise books because they use offensive language. Because then, if you do that, then the next generation who reads those books, like the Mark Twain books, like they won't understand like as well as they could. Like if you and I grew up reading Mark Twain, like his books,
Yeah.
and there's the offensive language in there because that's just the way people spoke at the time, but we don't speak it now, and so we're learning that people change and society changes, and that's just how they were. We're different now, but if you're changing it, the past to be more like the present, then people don't understand the past.
Or
uh
the path that leads
yeah,
to. The problem is also that when you change the word, you don't change the opinions of the people. You only,
right,
so
right,
the people back then, even, so for example, somebody said something that was racism, for example. So
right.
in days where obviously this is bad and stuff, so where slavery was a normal thing. So
Hmm.
some in the Middle Age or some, I don't know when that started. So and said something like that, and you change the names so it's not so offensive because they were called some
Right,
bad words. The question that I have is, okay, but how will this make it better? So
right,
it
right.
doesn't. It's just people putting a lot of time trying to find stuff that people could get offended with, changing them, and then, as we just said, it's also even harder to see the path or the step of evolution that was there from thinking that is right to going, okay, no, this is totally fucked up. Um,
Right, right.
yeah, it is just a strange thing, and I mean, it happens with a lot. One example is um, retarded, for example. So I remember here
Hmm.
in Germany also. I don't know if it's also in the USA. That somewhere during the last years was no, we can't say that because it offends people that are retarded.
Right.
And people would just use it like,
An
or this
insult,
is
right.
stupid. Like,
Yeah,
not that it was just like, this is stupid. So
yeah,
when something doesn't work or something like that, they would say, then nobody would think about it. And yeah, this just came to my mind. And
yeah.
also one other thing that comes to my mind is a comedian. He's a German comedian, so I won't mention the name now. But he had a show, and well, I found that funny because he basically was discriminating everybody, and that was the point of the show.
Yeah,
And at
yeah.
the end, he was saying, "Okay, people, it's equality. I hate all of you the same." Uh,
Yeah,
and I will shit on all of you. And how stupid is it to not make a joke about the people who's in a wheelchair? They also want to be part of it. You exclude them if you make jokes about everything, but not about the person in the wheelchair. And
yeah.
I found that interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
it's
came to my
weird
mind.
how I don't know if it's the same there, but and I don't know how common it is here. It's just I hear here and there I'll hear an incident of it where people go to a club and they get a drink, but then there's a comedian on, right? So the
Hmm.
comedian is on stage and everybody knows that's a comedian. It's not like some guy just telling stories or
Yeah,
saying the news. It's a guy trying to make everyone laugh. But then he'll say a joke, and then some people might get offended, and they say, "How can you say that?" Well, dude, he's a comedian. He's trying to make people laugh. Like
yeah.
he's not being serious. Like, I mean, I
It,
just I don't get people who don't understand that.
it's a dangerous edge kind of for a comedian because
Yeah,
obviously, yeah, you kind of have to be on. I mean, it's often cool when you're on the edge, you know?
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. But I totally agree with you, especially if such thing is clear. But it's like, it feels like a little bit that there are vultures out there just waiting
Yeah.
for somebody to say the wrong word to then, I don't know,
Yeah.
just go off and put all their anger in there without them even knowing the person, just because they, I don't know, read a thing that was trending on their
Right.
Facebook
Yeah.
tab or whatever. It's kind of interesting. So, well, I wonder, has this gotten, I don't want to say worse. What was that? I think it was less also because we didn't have social media, so it was just
Hmm.
people in an area saying, okay, have you seen this guy? Have you seen what he's done to his house, and it talking about that? And oh, have you seen how he treated his dog or stuff like that?
Hmm.
But these days it seems like, it's like it spreads like an online fire in these other worlds of
Yeah.
somebody, posted a picture or something like that.
And I want to say kind of going back to something you said, like how silly it is to try to censor books or to change books like Mark Twain, because like if you change the racial words used in it,
Yeah,
it still doesn't change history. It still doesn't
yeah,
change the fact that uh, black people were mistreated, for centuries, and they were slaves, and even post slavery, they were treated poorly. Like it doesn't change any of that. You just change some words. You can't change history, and it's just so stupid.
yeah.
Like it's a stupid thing to try to change history to make it better, because you don't see that we're living, for many people, not for everybody, but for many people, we're living in a better time, and we need to see how it used to be so that we can
Yeah,
see.
and why, and also to don't get
Yeah.
into the same trap again, because it
Right.
was
Right.
always so good. What's
Right.
also
Right.
what's also interesting about that is fairy tales. So I
Yeah.
really like stories and fairy tales and old cassettes and stuff like that, and I have a lot of them, and I also read and heard a lot of them as a child, also later. And let's take fairy tales, because this is something most people know. So a lot of the most popular fairy tales are pretty cruel in
Yeah.
origin. Really cruel.
Originally, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, throwing out their children in the forest, or
Hmm.
like, I have to try to translate, because obviously this is really hard. But I remember, so for example, it's from Wilhelm Busch, which is a German. I don't know if you know them. I think it's Wilhelm Busch, and he was really popular, and also all of his fairy tales were pretty cruel. There's, for example,
Hmm.
the Struwwelpeter, the shock-headed Peter
Hmm.
is the translation, or Towsy Head. Um,
What did he do?
so,
'Cause
oh
it
wait,
doesn't sound familiar.
yeah, I will try to find a picture. So basically, they told, it was a story that they told the children, and they told them, if you don't cut your nails and your hair, the Struwwelpeter was basically a boy who didn't do this. So I will send a picture in the
Hmm.
chat so you can see. And he will come in and then cut the hand. If you don't cut your nails, he will come cut your hands.
Mm.
Um, I put
So
it
like
in chat.
like a boogeyman.
Yeah, kind of.
Hmm. It's kind of
But I
weird
got,
how what like you want to make stories to tell the children so they can learn something, like, oh, don't, I don't know, don't run away into the forest or a wolf will get you, right? And then we make some kind of fairy tale that's just a way to teach children something, but like to not cut the nails and the hair is kind of a weird like thing to focus on,
yeah.
like the boy who cried wolf is a boy who came into town. He said, oh, wolf, wolf, wolf. But then he lied twice, and then so with the third time the wolf actually came, no one listened to him. So
Yeah, okay.
that's
Yeah.
the story is
That's the
like
moral.
to not lie, to not
Yeah.
lie. Because then when the truth comes out, people won't believe you, and that's a good story. But like something like don't cut your fingernails and hair, it's a very silly kind of moral
Yeah,
for
obviously, I
a
mean,
fairy tale.
this is kind of a scare tactic for
Yeah.
children to do
Yeah.
it. So
It's just a
yeah,
bit extreme for that kind of a thing.
but I want to go into this is one of the most popular, I think, and you will know it. So it's Hänsel and Gretel, und
Mm-hmm.
Gretel. You know that,
Yeah.
I guess. Okay. So I will tell you the truth about, as good as I have in my memory, the truth about Hänsel and Gretel, which is
Mm-hmm.
kind of interesting. So this is what they found out a lot later. So how all this happened. So basically Hänsel und Gretel were working in a bakery,
Mm-hmm.
and they were I forgot what years it was, but I will tell this before. So there's a book. So I once, when Amazon was new and didn't
Mm-hmm.
and stopped, not maybe they
Was
even
just a
didn't
bookseller.
sell
Yeah.
books. Yeah, I don't really know, but they already had something like you have to pay that much, and if you don't, you have to pay porto. And I was like
Mm-hmm.
€3 short. So basically, you have to pay €3 extra for the shipping, or you
Mm-hmm.
buy something more for €3. So I looked for stuff for €3, and I bought a book. And the book was
Mm-hmm.
called The Truth About Hansel and Gretel, which was
Mm-hmm.
by Hans Draxler, I think, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, well, I will try to make it short. Read the book, otherwise I can't give it back. So good. It has been a long time, and also I'm still hangover, and so on. But they basically found out that they were bakers, and that the witch. I mean, in Hansel and Gretel, there's a witch that eats the children.
Mm-hmm.
Leads them in and once, and they feed them to eat them.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that fairy tale? I think so.
Yeah. She leads them into there's a gingerbread house in the forest, and
Yeah,
they,
exactly. And
yeah,
and she has a back oven and wants to throw them in there. So,
yeah.
true story. They were both no children. They were grown up. They had a
Mm-hmm.
bakery together. They were siblings, and there was another bakery in the same town, and that was the bakery of the witch.
Mm-hmm.
Which obviously was no witch. And well, she found out. She made something new, some sweet bakery, and everybody really liked it. And they basically assaulted her, and
Mm-hmm.
she moved to the forest to avoid these two harassing her. And this was
Mm-hmm.
also the reason why she had big ovens in the house in the forest. This part seems to be true. And well, at the end, they went there and they killed her and stole the recipe. And there's
Mm-hmm.
a really famous German sweet stuff. I will Google how it's called. It's called Nürnberger Lebkuchen. Nürnberg is just a city,
Mm-hmm.
and Lebkuchen is what you often eat at Christmas. Gingerbread.
Okay.
So, and she kind of they are there to this day, and yeah, they sell goods, and it's a protected name and stuff. And basically, the witch found out the base recipe back then, so they invented them, and they killed her and took the recipe.
Mm-hmm.
And that was basically what really happened. And yeah, somehow this fairy tale got out of that, which has nothing to do with what really happened, which I found
Yeah,
really
it's a
interesting.
strange. I guess they had the base idea of like two people and a witch, and then they just changed it to two children or something. I don't know. It's very strange how that gets warped.
Yeah, 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 but it's
But this
interesting. So after you.
Disney does that a lot. They take old fairy tales and they make a new story out of them based on uh, I don't know. Uh, a lot of those old folk fairy tales Disney has taken and making like a new story out of and make a bunch of money. But then what they do, which I don't like, is that so some of Disney stories are like are based on public knowledge, like public domain folk stories,
Yeah,
and then they make a new story of it, and then they say, "Oh no, you can't copy our story. You can't like it's our material now, but like it's not really original. It's just based on something else." And they just went in and kind of changed the setting and the characters a little bit and made a movie or story out of it, and they kind of protect it like it's their own. But I don't like they
no,
don't
yeah,
really
same.
credit they don't really credit or they don't really like allow people to use like clips from the movie as art or something like that. And it's just, and that starts to bother me. Like from Disney, like they're taking, but they're not giving back to the common, good.
Yeah, I think there have been I'm not really sure, a lot of complaints about Nintendo in the past, taking off
Yeah,
like let's plays or stuff, anything that was related to their content that people did, even big
yeah,
people.
yeah. And I would like Nintendo makes. They're one of those companies that makes products that I like. I just don't like how they do business. I don't like how they like in the NES days. There's I don't know like the full story, but there's something like they said to their publishers, if you want to release a game on the NES, then you can't release it anywhere else, or at least for a year, and that's not illegal.
Yeah,
And it's just stuff like that. And I don't like how like they have a virtual console, so like you can buy old like NES and Super Nintendo games for their modern stuff, but then it's tied to the device itself and not to your account. Like so, like if you get a Wii and then you get I don't know Mario 3, then you're gonna pay for it once. But then if you get the Wii U comes out, the next one, and you still want to play Mario 3, then you've got to buy it again. And if you get a new Switch, because that's the new one, you got to buy it again. It's not a buy one keep it forever kind of deal. And I don't
yeah,
like
I agree.
how to
It's
do that.
it's a horrible system, and I don't understand why they are so stupid, because they have such a big back catalog of retro games people are really wanting to buy. So
Right.
make one good platform, even charge more, change, but give them a reliable platform to play those from, no matter what console. So
Right.
so
Right.
maybe it can be added to the Switch 3000 after there is an emulator, even if it comes
Right.
out 1 year after the Switch 3000.
Yeah.
It's something like that. So, yeah, but this seems to be a horrible system. I agree.
Yeah, and it just bothers me that like and it's not just Nintendo doing that; it's Sony doing that too. And it's I just don't like it when I see something that's not good for the customer, but then people are just saying, "Well, I don't care, I'll buy it anyway." And I wish people would show a little restraint, protest a little
Yeah,
bit, and in the big scheme of things, what Nintendo's doing is very just not very important compared to civil liberties and inequality and all that. But like I think people are just they're not even trying to like make the. I feels like people are not even trying to make the world better. They're complaining about the world not being better, but they're not trying to do anything about it. It just kind of bothers me.
yeah. It reminded me of something totally different now, but
Well, go
so,
ahead. Yeah.
well, I was on a party on a weekend, and
Mm-hmm.
so basically we're all old friends, and there was one girl I didn't know, and she we talked in between about stuff, and we were talking about gaming, which rarely happens when I
Mm-hmm.
go on party, because I do a lot of that here. But anyway, she tried to convince me and said how great Nintendo is, and wanted me to play the new Zelda game. And I was like telling
Yeah.
her I like all this old stuff, and I mostly don't like all this new stuff, and I played so many. I give you my Switch, please play a game. And when she went away, I will probably never see her again. But it was like when
Uh,
she went away, it was like I was like, okay, I will make you play a game from back then, and then I will play a little bit of Brave of Road. Yeah, okay, we can.
oh, and then she like you haven't heard from her since.
Yeah, it was just a funny joke
Oh,
when she went, but still, that before was really like, okay, so they really tried to convince me, like, okay, but it's a really great game, just try it. So all these new Switch games are cool, and I was like, I like this old stuff. I don't want to try the new stuff I did a few times. I didn't like it. I think it's not for me.
yeah.
Yeah, but that was funny. Somehow I liked it. I also was in another Discord server where recently they broke out a little, I wouldn't say console war, but they were basically arguing about, so one was saying, okay, the Switch is a console for children, and then there were people
Mm,
stepping in, not liking that, and saying, no, it's not for children, I really like to play Mario Kart, and, and
yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and they were obviously, yeah, so they were not talking about the same thing, obviously, so. But yeah, it's kind of funny when people try to defend opinions and yeah, go into that so hard, because of such things for
I,
companies that obviously don't care.
I think people get confused because Nintendo generally makes like they make their own games. They're the Metroids and the Zeldas and the Marios and stuff like that. They have their own franchises, and
Yeah,
generally those games are like for all ages or for kids,
yeah,
and
they
that's fine.
are at
But they
least
also make
family
the
friendly. Yeah,
hardware. But they also make the hardware which other developers can put their games on, and
yeah,
those necessarily aren't for kids. So it's like people are just getting confused with that.
yeah, yeah. I think it's probably also there's your history. I mean, I played a lot of games on that were on different systems, and so when they were on the Super Nintendo, they mostly cut out the blood and stuff.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, they always had a history of. They even cut out little loot jokes, like
yeah.
even in Zelda. So
Hmm.
yeah, so yeah, it was always tailored. But on the other hand, honestly, so for me it's always like, okay, so if I like that, how do I care if what somebody thinks about that? Do I have to step in and put up my
Yeah,
shield to defend Nintendo? So
yeah.
that's so funny to me because like then they are arguing, but it's not like a fact check. It's like so the one side is saying, yeah, okay, this is how I see it. Back then, Sega was targeting another group because Nintendo had the mainframe. They were trying a little bit edgy and with harder stuff, and yeah, so a niche that was over because Nintendo had a big one and they were in the same. So the one was saying that, and then comes the next one, and it's like, um, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but I really like it. I don't think it's marketing for that. I now got that, and yeah, I found it funny. It's an interesting dynamic. That's also
Hmm.
dangerous, obviously, because um, yeah, you're not your opinions, and you can't discuss if you defend.
Hmm.
Just I mean,
Right.
it's not about who wins in such things and
Yeah,
who
and
won.
there's a little
So
too much of that, like trying to win an argument rather than just trying to hear what other people have to say.
yeah,
And I think now that I think about it, I think another there's that one reason Nintendo makes their own games and they tend to be kids games, but there's another thing is that like during the NES and Super Nintendo days, like there was no ratings on video games. So I think what
yeah,
Nintendo was trying to do is just make every game that came out on it kind of at least maybe not for kids games, but at least family friendly, so that all lewd jokes were taken out, all religion was taken out, blood was taken out, etc. Like that, so that if you bought a Super Nintendo game, might not be a kids game, but it might not be something that would
yeah,
shock kids, right? But then, like in the 16-bit days, we got the ratings board. So like with later games, you had the rating M for mature, or uh, there's like E for everyone. Those kind of those ratings right on the box, so oh, this is a kids game or this is an adult game. So Nintendo doesn't have to like interfere with that much anymore,
yeah.
which is kind of nice.
Yeah, also that shade and jab and loose is loosened a
Yeah,
lot. So I mean, there was a time when you could have one brutal game and there was no internet. So if this got shown on media, then you fucked up, and every parent would say, "No, I've seen what you
yeah,
do. You're not allowed to buy a Nintendo or whatever kind of
right.
console." So yeah,
Yeah, I guess people just have the wrong idea about Nintendo when they think it's just for kids. They just have an old idea of it, but they're not so much anymore. They're just
by the way, this discussion Sparkle came out now. I remember because one was saying um, you played Monster Hunter World yesterday. The third. Wait, what's the name? Monster
no, it's
World?
called
Yeah.
Monster World, not Monster Hunter World.
Yeah,
Close though, but yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I tried. Um, anyway, so this game gets a remaster on the Switch,
Hmm.
it seems. And one posted that in another Discord server, and then one was saying, um, I'll try if I find that. So he was basically saying that he's disappointed because then back then Sega was for the kind of hardcore guys, and now
Yeah.
everything got shifted up and picked up by Nintendo, and that makes him kind of sad because he back then was on the on the Sega side and was catched by the edgy advertisement and
Right.
and the stuff like that. And then this discussion started, and then there were others stepping in. And the last thing he said in that part was that he thinks Nintendo is catered towards children mainly game wise, so the games that they make on their own. And yeah, and then this discussion came up.
And that's just I think from my perspective, that's just a bad understanding of Sega. I mean, Sega had the edgier marketing for like kids and like, oh, we have Mortal Kombat, but it has blood, whereas Super Nintendo doesn't, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
Or we have games with guns, et cetera, et cetera. We have RoboCop versus Terminator, and that's uncensored.
yeah,
And that's just what Sega decided to do. But they still had kids games on the Genesis or on the Mega Drive or Genesis or whatever
yeah,
you had. Like,
sure.
so
Yeah,
it's
sure.
not, they weren't just for the bigger kids, they were for everybody. It's just they allowed more stuff in there.
Yeah, that's right. But I would also say that so I mean obviously I haven't played all Super Nintendo and all Sega games, but I played a lot. And I would say that most Nintendo games are easier to get into. Not all of them. Obviously there are really hard games on the Super Nintendo. But if you see the whole library or look at the whole library, I think a lot of Sega games are harder, just more difficult, and because of that reason harder to get into. So Nintendo was always like, so for example, of these for me. So back then my neighbor only had Sonic stuff, but for me after a time, what also was kind of like special. There were so many games on the Sega with really open levels where you can run around a lot. Whereas, for example, games like, well, obviously Mario, but a lot of platformers in the Super Nintendo were rather linear in that way.
Yeah.
Where you don't have to. I mean, there's stuff where it's like Bubsy. I mean, you have to run everywhere, and which is where's the accident stuff, and yeah. So, but for most games, and I would say that this was more. I found that more at the Sega games that I played. I have another. You mentioned RoboCop versus Terminator, and I want to mention one thing. I read an interview with the developers, and so regarding the blood, as we said, it was patched out for the Super Nintendo. The Sega has a lot of blood and gore in it, and I really liked that when I read it. So basically, the developers were really young when they made the game. I think they were 19 to 21, something like that. Don't quote me, but as I said, I read it, and one guy was telling that they really wanted the blood, and they so every time they showed the version, they put a switch in, and every time they showed the version, they put the switch out, and this is why the blood is even in. So it wouldn't have been so bloody, and they wouldn't get through it, and this is why the game is so bloody. Which I found really funny because they were all really young and were hiding it for the quality control so they can get it into the final version. I like that story. Just wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
There was an article in a magazine called Retro Gamer. Well, maybe it's good that we talked about Nintendo and Sega and not went into the big topic that Twitch blocked.
Yeah.
For today, at least.
It's kind of, I guess, disappointing. Like as a kid, I was a fan of Sega, and because that's what I bought. Of course, like I'm not gonna buy a Sega and then say, oh, I love Nintendo. Like, that's kind of silly. But Sega tended to have like the more action oriented games, and what I noticed like at the time, and I don't know if this is necessarily true of all the library, but like when of the games I saw on the Sega versus the games on the Nintendo, like in the 16-bit era, like the Super Nintendo games were kind of slower, and like there's a lot more RPGs and like kind of slower gameplay, but I wanted like quick action games, so like Sega. And so there's, of course, as kids we're like, oh, some people are in the Sega rules, Nintendo sucks camp, and then the other kids are like, no, Sega sucks, Nintendo rules. And of course, there's that divide, that console war. But it sucks that like it's continued on, like even after Sega's left left the scene. They don't no longer make home hardware.
Yeah.
It's now Sony versus Microsoft. Like, come on, do we still have to do this versus thing again? Like, it's. I thought we were
It's
done with that.
it's kind of an interesting thing, and I think this has something to do with human nature. So it's like,
Yeah,
it's like, it's also like, how are there 10 million top 10 videos? Because people kind of, I don't know why, like listing things and want to know what's the best and what's the worst,
yeah,
So people want to see the best, the worst, the weirdest, the
yeah.
so all these things. Yeah. And on the other hand, it's, yeah, we are back to the kind of, well, no, forget that point. We don't get back if I go on with it.
I mean, we could switch topics. I don't care.
Yeah.
We were just had that.
Yeah,
to say.
feel free. I'm still hangover, and I wanted to say something, and while I was trying to translate it in my head, I went, oh no, this makes no sense. Better not say that. Yeah.
Should we go on to the main topic?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
So that's a biggie, kind of.
Yeah, it's a heavy topic.
That's a heavy topic. So as I told you, so I, in philosophy in school, I don't know when, I'm bad with dates, maybe in 10th grade or something like that, we discussed about death penalty. So our teacher was basically asking us, who says it should be allowed for people to get killed if they are convicted criminals that done really bad stuff, and the jury said, or the judge said, okay, death sentence, or should that not be possible? So should nobody be able to decide about a human life?
Yeah,
That was basically the main question. So it's a pretty hard one. I think I remember that back then I said, no, nobody should have the right. I don't really remember all the arguments. But I mean, a big one obviously is, just because a jury or a judge says something doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big one.
I guess maybe as a middle school kid or a teenager or whatever, I was, not as smart and wise, and I didn't know as much as I do now. And I was thinking, oh yeah, if this guy killed somebody, yeah, give him the death penalty. Like, why should he live when he kills somebody? And I thought that the courtroom was this like perfect institution where no one's gonna lie and you're gonna get the truth no matter what. But what I've learned since then is like, even the prosecutor can lie, the defending judge can lie, the judge can lie. Like, they're supposed to uphold the law, but they don't have to. Like, they can get away with it.
We talked about it in the last podcast. I mean, the law is basically a system that kind of eats us alive with paragraphs. So basically, it was made so that everything is right and foolproof, and it's now such a kraken, such a monster, that obviously need to pay lawyers really a lot of money so they can find loopholes and that, and you get out. I mean, you can get out of stuff that you did because somebody was too late to
submit some paperwork
to have some document at there and there, and so that's a flawed system anyway. So this is one big case, I would say, one big reason why this is. On the other hand, I mean, I kind of also understand nobody should decide about one other, but you also have to think about, when somebody harms another person or does it on a regular level, obviously something has to happen.
Right.
You have to do something to kind of, to keep the society safe, or whatever you want to say. Something like that. So something has to happen to keep the other people safe. And I mean, I think especially in small groups, before the law system, they also dealt with such things. There was also stuff like this, And these days
Yeah.
we have so many rules. I mean, the important rule is still, I think, just, don't do something that harms other people. So
Yeah.
that's, so no, let's put it better. Don't do something to somebody that you wouldn't also want.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, obviously there are always loopholes, and some people like really strange stuff. But yeah, so so this is so the basic thing somehow how it should be, but it's not that. It's like we have 10,000 books with different interpretations of law.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a crazy system. And also, is it better? So somebody, now let's say we have somebody and he's convicted. He done something pretty terrible.
Mhm.
He killed a number of people, for example.
Mhm.
And well, the judge, well, it's somewhere where there's no death penalty, and he gets in prison. So is it better? Is it better to keep alive the whole time in prison? Maybe he's in a cell alone, is not allowed to see other people. I'm just framing a picture. I'm not saying something is better or worse. I think these are interesting questions regarding that. So is that better? And how can you even evaluate if this is better or not? So these
Right.
are kind of important questions, I think.
So my opinion is that it's better to keep them alive because once you execute someone, there's no going back. Like you can't say, like if you execute someone and then a year down the road you say, oh, we found this new evidence or this new witness or somebody, and this completely changes it, and then we proven that we executed the wrong person, and here's the other person. Like, well, what does that do for the person who was executed the wrong
Yeah,
improperly? Like, so the problem is that death penalty is permanent and you can't undo it.
yeah,
And there's just cases. It seems like maybe all the time here in the U.S. where people, uh, and it seems disproportionately for like Black people and Latino people, where um, it's something to do where like a crime is committed, the police can't find, like they're looking for suspects, they're looking for who did it,
yeah,
and they find someone who is Black or Latino, and think, oh, he must be the guy, so they imprison him and they try to frame it so that they lay the blame on him so that the police
yeah,
could say, okay, we're done, we found the guy, and then we're going to put him away for 20 years or whatever, but like the real criminal got away. And so I think there's a lot of that. I don't know how prevalent it might be. It might be overblown, it might be really commonplace, I don't know, because I'm not an expert in crime and
yeah, me
justice. But
neither.
when there's the aspect of like police and investigators messing up, and they just like they got the wrong evidence or the wrong, or they asked witnesses for information, the witnesses provided, either they lied or they gave
Yeah,
like they didn't really know, so they made something up because
yeah, or they got wait, what's the word? Um, so with a lot of so for example in criminal processes when the other people come and then they talk to the witnesses, you better not say anything, stuff like that.
yeah,
um
yeah,
you never know, there are so many parts where there are flaws and where a lot of stuff can happen.
yeah,
And also, as we've seen in history, there always comes up new stuff, and no matter what, if it's new
hmm,
information, if it's new scientific ways to prove something, and
right,
then all of a sudden something looks different.
right. And
Yeah,
so like we can't, well, okay, I won't say we can't because we can, but like I say we shouldn't execute people because we can we can go back and we have other people review cases, and we do have people review cases and say, oh, like this testimony by this witness isn't very good, or this person was lying, or this person said this but the evidence said this, and there's a contradiction there. And there's all these like, not to say that like they're trying to get people, like, not trying to get criminals, like, because if you look at it this way, reality happens one way, and like the if there's a crime then someone definitely committed it.
Yeah.
but we're not God. We can't see we can't see everyone doing everything at all times. So like we just have to do our best to piece it together with witnesses and evidence and stuff like that
Yeah.
and motives. We're not always going to get it right. We're going to make some mistakes. So I think because we can make mistakes, we should at least allow ourselves to fix it. And no, if we jail the wrong person for 20 years or 40 years, and then we say, oh, we look at the case and say, oh, this is incorrect. We got the wrong person, and we can still free him. You can't give him back the 20 years or 40 years he lived in jail,
Yeah.
but like you can at least still live, like not be executed just because
Yeah. I
it's
think
convenient. And like we want, like, sometimes I feel it's also like we have bad people as police officers, we have bad people
yeah,
as
sure.
prosecutors, we have bad people as
You
judges,
have
and
bad
they're
people everywhere.
yeah,
Like good.
everywhere, like in every
It's
position.
yeah.
uh, Even like doctors and nurses, like we've got bad people, so we have to keep on lookout for those people. And
Yeah, sure.
if we just say, okay, this person's dead, who cares about the case? Well, then those bad judges and prosecutors and cops, they can keep doing it because there's no point in trying to review the case.
Yeah. I wanna mention something a little bit different, but I
Hmm.
kind of think it fits. I also think I mentioned it before. I don't remember if on the podcast on regarding which topic, but I once had an English lecture at university
Hmm.
a long time ago. The guy that made it is called Janusz Kangur. He's from what's that in English? Estland.
Okay. Iceland, yeah.
No, wait. Anyway, so he worked different jobs, and one thing that he did was that he studied, and he also did. He was doing wait, I gotta Google it. So basically, he put together victim and perpetrator. Is this right?
Hmm.
So basically, for example, he put together the family of a man that was shot by the other guy, and then he
Hmm.
kind of, if they wanted, put together the family with the other guy that was in prison for them to talk about the whole thing. And the
Hmm.
interesting thing that he studied how this works around the world in different cultures. And I just want to put in one example that he gave me, and that was, I don't remember. I think it was, so it was a kind of native tribe. I think it was even an American kind of Indian tribe. And he said that back then, so the different villages would kill each other. So the men, so the women were at home, the men went out and they hunted and stuff, and they will kill each other. And the thing was, when somebody killed the man of another woman, they had to care for the woman that now had no man.
Mm.
That was the rule. That was how this worked there.
That
They
was like
weren't.
some tribal society, that was their
Yeah,
law.
yeah,
Okay.
that was their law. So it was basically totally different. It was like, okay, you kill now, you have to do this, and I found that really interesting. And it's also important to see, not that I say, okay, this is the new way now, that there are different ways, because we are so trapped in our system, we don't even think there are different ways of things. You know,
Yeah.
it's like okay, death or no, or keep in prison forever or not. So something like that. I found that pretty interesting. Obviously, this is nothing you can do on a huge scale, and also doesn't work always. But still, I found that really interesting.
Yeah. It's always interesting to see other like cultures and how they
Handle such things. Yeah.
what traditions they have, and like their law and stuff like that. It's always interesting, and because they have the same problems, they just come to different conclusions. So it's interesting to see
Yeah.
what they.
Exactly, and it's even more interesting in this case, is because these days most people have the internet, and you see how all over the world it is, and when something just happens without knowing, and you know,
Hmm.
so then you may find a totally different way. These days, a lot of days you will find a lot of similar ways, because everybody sees the same all over the world. and then it's less common that they invent something new. And if you don't know how it's worked, but you have this problem and you have to get it solved, you don't. So to say it in our today word, you don't go to Google and look how to build a toilet. You just do something, and then
Right.
maybe you have a new system.
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. Yeah, that's, I don't know. It's interesting, but it's so difficult. So I remember that back then I also totally said that, and and I don't think somebody should take the life. On the other hand, I think also, like we talked about in the podcast related death. So, well, so if I would get imprisoned, for my whole life, I mean, I would have to find out. But I might someday, if I'm all the time alone and don't have, and don't have much stuff. I don't know if I could keep up, whatever. If I maybe even want to die at a certain point. Maybe. I don't know. Honestly, but yeah. So this is also something that's obviously different from person to person. I mean, for some persons, it may even be harder to know they are in jail their whole life. Maybe I'm guessing obviously the whole time. I don't know, but yeah. So this is hard, and in all those cases, somebody else decides for a person that they don't know. They only know why they are convicted. Yeah. So both are things nobody should decide about. But on the other hand, obviously the person has done something before that hopefully, if everything went right, they shouldn't have done. So it's really hard. It's like, but there are so many like this thing. So I remember, for example, there was a bit in the media during the last years here in Germany, because there were some, for example, women from guys that fought the ES that also went there, and they are Germans and they came back. So what to do with them? Because they are, well, it's like, okay, we know her man, and she supported her man, and her man fought for the Islamic State. But she didn't do a crime, for example. So, and then I guess, I mean, I don't know, I guess they are then full-time observing them and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's kind of difficult when to do that and what to do, and it also depends on case to case. And I always obviously have to think, like, okay, so if somebody is a danger the whole time, you have to do something, and then you find a way in this flawed law system what you can do and what law you can. I mean, during the last years, there's also a lot about, like, we have to fight, set in something. We have to fight terrorism. We have to fight this. So there are a lot of plans for example, for police to, without special case, look through your telephone and all that stuff. And I mean, we know that there's stuff like prison and such things, apart from these official thing, like, we want to look in there, can we please change something? So yeah, that's also a thing, because I mean, these are, so all this stuff, so for example, tools that the Secret Service can use, or stuff like that, that Edward Snowden put up on his on his page. I mean, only they know. Only the I don't know, the CIA and the FBI have these tools. So nobody else can confirm how they work, and can also confirm that they can't even insert something there. I mean, I don't think that I'm just, it's just like, yeah. So yeah, I don't like the principle of, I don't have to hide something, so show everything, I just think this is pretty fucked up.
Yeah, and like going back to prison, like I think the overall thing, like, prison is it's a part of a larger picture, and I think if we put in the work, because I think society at large, like, there's a lot of people with, like, kind of mental issues, and not to say that they're crazy, they're just like, they've got some kind of issue that, not saying it can be cured, but like they can get some treatment. And some people go, they can't afford to see a, a therapist, so they can
Yeah.
might have some kind of issue, and it leads them down a path to criminal, to become a criminal, to like maybe
Yeah.
hurt somebody, or maybe they've got some kind of I don't know how you say it, like
Psychical issue or something like that.
some kind of an issue where like they want to steal or they want to hurt
Yeah.
somebody or something like that. I mean, I'm sure that that exists, and I just don't know what it's called. But like, I mean, I know the thing where like if you want to steal, it's called kleptomania. But like,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a proper term. That's just a word I've heard of it. But like, if you want to if you want to reduce people going to jail, then some of these people who are going to jail are doing so because they've got some kind of mental issue. And if you had
Yeah.
easier access to
To help.
therapy and
Yeah,
to
something like that.
healthcare,
Yeah.
and like people checking in on you, then those people, there's a chance that some of those people who would have become a criminal or are treated, and no, they're not fixed, they're not cured, but like you can keep them out of jail, and so we wouldn't
Yeah.
that would make us a safer society.
Yeah.
And that's
I
just
I
one thing,
agree.
like, and it's not just mental issues, it's like poverty. Like if you're hungry every day, of course you're gonna like steal something to sell for money so you can eat. Like if
Yeah.
we can make sure everybody has something to eat, then that that crime comes down too. It's like, but these are like hard issues to tackle. It's not easy to just say, okay, we're going to do this or that. It's like it's an ongoing process, just like losing weight or quitting smoking or quitting drinking or whatever. It's a long process and it's an ongoing thing. It just seems like our societies don't really want to deal with it. They just want to vote
Yeah.
for somebody, and then hopefully they deal with it. If
It's
not, then well, whatever. But like no
I
one.
guess it's the same like with all these other things. So it's been handled so long like this, and
Hmm.
it's like it's like a habit, and things
Hmm.
need a long, long time to change if there's a certain system, because there are people that are powering up the system, that are making money with the system, and
Right. Right.
there are also people that learn to do something somehow, and they will do it, and they don't want to learn something new because it's their 5 last years on the job, and they did it for 35 years. So who the fuck are you to tell
Yeah.
me how to do it? And the other thing, yeah, I agree with what you said. So I think the problem is, so for one, for example, um, so I just thought about when you said that about some people that kind of, I will say it in a stupid way, but kind of don't feel, do stupid stuff, maybe don't hurt anyone, and feel
Hmm.
like they don't fit in this world. And they
Yeah.
tried
Yeah.
before and they don't fit in this world. And then they get into prison, and in prison, they are obviously really limited, and they're also trying to do the same stuff again, to force people into the same world in a
Hmm.
and are not always in a better way. And also, it's obviously a lot psychical struggle for people that are struggling before and then
Hmm.
being in there. So it mustn't always doesn't always probably lead to a better ending than before. Also, I mean, just logical thinking. If you're, I don't know, if you are a criminal, and I don't know, you're a drug dealer, and then you get to prison, and then you get to know all the other drug dealers from the
Yeah,
other
that's true.
areas around,
Yeah.
you know. So it's kind of like, okay, well, what happens when you put a lot of those people in the same place? Well,
Right.
they obviously they will socialize. So,
Right.
and what is the same that all of they have in common? So what you can talk about with everyone. Well,
Just
why are you
doing
here?
drugs
What have you done? So,
yeah. Yeah.
have you already
Well,
dealt in LA? Yeah, it's like,
and then
yeah,
they tell each other, oh, well, I did this to avoid the police, or I paid off this person, or whatever, and I did this to avoid getting caught, and then that could teach other people, so they can, if we don't do anything, if we just lock people away, and
yeah,
that's the thing, it's like if we just lock people away,
it won't
we
get
don't
better.
like, they won't get better.
It's like blending out the problem, kind
Yeah.
of like for a certain time, and hope that during the time the time was so horrible that they don't want to do it again, kind of
Right.
like, yeah,
And to put it like in a silly way, let's say they jail people for eating bad food, right? And this is just very silly, but like if you jail me because I eat, fast food and soda and whatever, and I get out of jail, like that's all I knew how to do, and that's the problem. Like you
Yeah.
need to like teach people instead of doing this illegal activity. Well, can we teach you how to do this or this, and so you can have a job and a steady income, and you don't have to like do this for money.
I remember a lot of cool old prison or gangster movies,
Hmm.
in which people were in a prison and some of them were there a long time. So the oldest guy being in there, I think one of them was es war einmal Amerika, it once was America or something like that.
Hmm.
Oh, that's a pretty good movie. Anyway, um, so the thing is then, in the movies, obviously I don't know how often this happens or if there are even statistics. So
Hmm.
if you are a guy that lived 50 years in prison and you come out and there are fucking flying cars and nothing, there's nothing that gives you hope. So you basically
Yeah,
there are people that didn't fit into and then get prison tries to force feed them into the same system and it gets worse. There are also people
yeah,
that then maybe get in that system and get so hung up in the system that they afterwards can't get into the system that evolved outside. It's called
yeah.
Once Upon a Time in
In,
America.
in America, yeah, I've seen that. And that's a
Yeah,
really good movie. Yeah,
yeah,
really long. It's nearly 4 hours long.
yeah. It's a really good movie. I'm not sure. I think it was that movie where at the end one of the guys, spoiler, one of the old guys comes out and then hangs himself in his first apartment and wears his best suit and stuff and writes a letter like, I don't know anything anymore. So I've been in here 40 years. I now have no friends. I'm living in this old apartment. I have the job,
Yeah,
but I don't have. There's no sense anymore. I'm so old. I don't have the energy
right.
to give me a new one. Goodbye, cruel
And,
world.
yeah, and now that we're talking about jail, like I think jail is necessary, but I think it's like it's not. It's
It's
necessary because there's some people who you just can't like
yeah. There are people.
reform.
Yeah.
They're just not gonna change.
Yeah. It's
But I
true.
think we're using jail too much because there are people who can change, but we're just putting them in jail rather than like I'm saying like try to give them like put them on a new path so that they're productive and maybe hopefully a happier member
Yeah.
of society. Like
Yeah.
um
So more rehab than lock away and look if it's better in
mhm.
20 years. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's more
For
difficult
sure.
to do to like find some place for every because like and that this comes back to our system like our society is not exactly perfect like it's there's a lot of problems with our society. So I don't really blame people who feel like there's no place for me in this society because like they feel like maybe it's too crazy. Like I'm supposed to
Yeah.
just like for example, people are cops are beating black people. There's even stories as horrible as it is. There's stories of like policemen handcuffing women and then raping them in their car, like in their police car. It's horrible. Like how do you expect me to live in this kind of society like, and just accept that it's too much, and so I
Yeah.
don't blame people for like just going crazy over it.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. It's hard. I mean, I'm I'm still crazy. I don't think it
Hmm.
will get better. Yeah. Yeah. I totally feel that. This is something that we should maybe also tackle under the depression topic. I don't
Hmm.
want to go into that now, but so this feeling. Okay, I'm wrong in the world, and
Yeah, yeah,
um, I don't fit in here. So
yeah, you don't have a
kind of
place
like
for
this.
it, and a lot of some of that's like at least in my case, and I don't know if I have depression because I've never been a
Yeah,
therapist, but like part of what I've felt growing up is like, oh, these people, these school friends, oh, they're doing so well in school, but I'm not, or these people are uh, these like two friends or whatever, they're getting married and I don't have a wife. Man, why can't I have a wife? And oh, they're so happy and they have their kids now and they have a house and everything's great for them. And like and it's that when you compare your own life to someone else's, like, and I think a lot of us do that where like you compare what you're doing to like some friends or somebody that you see who's doing very well and you're thinking, well, why can't I do very well? Maybe I don't fit in this world because I'm not doing
yeah,
as well as they are. Maybe I'm
yeah,
just you know, and I can see where that kind of that thinking leads to depression.
Yeah, sure. And the worst thing about this is that um, this is a hard one to phrase. So the worst thing about this that all these are kind of that all this shouldn't matter. You know, all this is are expectations, kind of
Yeah,
like. And the one thing obviously comes from showing at people around you, looking at people around you, but also from the fact that most people live that life, and so you think this is what you need to be happy, or this is what is expected, or this is the
right.
normal way of doing something, and
Mhm.
that's why it then gets strange or hard. It's like somebody trying to do their thing, but people then saying no, that won't work, you will never get a job in that field, you will not do that. And then no, it's kind of, yeah, on that plate scene, I think.
Yeah, and I think like part of the way out of that is to just find some kind of a job that you like enjoy doing and it pays well. And like if you're in a place right now where like, you know, you're in a job you don't like and you don't really make a whole lot of money, and then you're comparing yourself to like some family who's doing a good job and they've got enough money to feed their family and the kids and they have a house and all that and they've got a nice car and all that. Well, like you've just got to find like a job that maybe you're not going to have a wife and kids like they do, but like maybe you can find a job where you can maybe go traveling or like spend your time doing some kind of hobby where you enjoy life. And so you could say, oh, I'm not living the same life they are, but I'm still kind of enjoying life. And you don't, and when that happens, I think it's you're living a different life, but you're still finding happiness. And I think people get caught up in like, I'm not living like they are,
Yeah.
and that's the reason I'm not happy. No, it's because you haven't found your own like path in life.
Yeah, also a big thing is just I think there should be a lot of more ways to live, and I think there are a lot
Yeah,
more, but due to the fact that, well, one thing is always shown, and it also obviously makes sense, and everything is kind of, go towards that direction. And that, I
right.
mean, that's obvious because we have a system, and the system leads to, for example, in some places, people having healthcare and can go to the doctor, or people getting unemployed money in certain cases, or something like that, you know? And obviously, that also is kind of tailored towards, okay, we need more doctors, we need more that. So, obviously, the whole thing we are prepared for is to keep the system running the whole time.
Right.
And this is obviously a big part. And, it's like, there are some birds of paradise out there that you
Hmm.
see where you might think like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Right.
Or
Right.
what's
Why can't I be
what's
like that? Right.
what's up with you? So on a positive way, on a negative way, doesn't really matter. I think the important thing, and I wish I tried it earlier, is just to, at least try the stuff that you want to do. So maybe, and even if it's crazy, so if your dream is to, I don't know, to travel and write cooking books, then maybe it will never work, but just do it, and
Yeah.
before it's too late, something like that. So maybe it will work
Yeah.
out, maybe it won't work out, but you will kind of never know. And you will also be sad when you haven't tried, but you now have a safe job, but you kind of feel like, oh, I wish I wish back
Yeah.
then, um, I would have done that. And it would be cool if there are so many more people. I remember that well, I will tell the story in short form, and then I wanna end this also for today. But
Hmm.
I have one story about a guy that is a street musician. His name is Rambling Dan. You can Google him. I hope you will still find him. So I was with a friend in the city, and I was this guy. This guy has built his own contraption where there were a lot of music instruments put on the contraption, and then forward on the contraption he painted that whole thing so it looked like a little theater where he
Hmm.
could put figures he made out of socks out and talk to the children. And behind that there was strapped his guitar and his mundharmonica, I don't know if you know that word.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know Mundharmonika?
I know harmonica is.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
in Hamburg. Yeah. So and he
Okay.
was playing House of the Rising Sun,
Mm-hmm.
and we stood there and listened to the song. Afterwards, he put a sock out that had some eyes and stuff, and was talking to the kids. So kids, if you like that, please ask your parents to give me something. You can give me chocolate, or you can give me some money.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really like chocolate, he said with the socks, or something like that. So we liked that. I think we put money or chocolate in, I don't know, but we gave him something. And then we went to a restaurant and we ate. And when we came out, he was coming towards us. So we heard him before because he was drawing his contraption and had wheels, obviously. And we were hearing something coming and we saw him. And I said, hey, I saw you there. And he then asked us, it was a long time ago. I think maybe 20 years or something like that. And he no, not. Anyway, it was a long time ago. And then he asked us, "Hey, can you maybe help me? I want to smoke weed." And we then showed him in the park here. Okay, you can ask this guy. So and then that guy sold him something, and I was totally happy. And then he asked us if we want to see his wagon because he was. He's a driving musician. He has a wagon, and he showed us to us, and it was really cool. So most of his music instruments were, so for example, he had a bass, bass, I guess, bass,
Oh, the
as
bass
an
guitar,
instrument.
yeah.
Yeah, and his bass was basically I have to Google so he built all of himself from really crappy material and played with it, and he then asked us to do a session, and he had really blinking eyes and was really really into that. And but he also told us, okay, when there are 2 weeks and it rains, you nearly get no money and stuff. And he also showed us another wagon because his girlfriend was new and was also doing that, and she was making portraits of other people, and he told us that she had a hard time. She just started. He's been doing that for 20 years. She's been doing it the first year and not sure if that's the right thing for her and stuff. And it was so interesting, and he showed us newspaper, an article from him in Israel and stuff, and what languages he learned on the way and stuff. And he was doing that his whole life, and he was happy. And I mean, obviously, yeah, that's really cool, and it's important that there are people like that, and that there is a different way, and that. And not just the one way. Obviously, this is not for everyone. That there are tons of different possibilities. But it's just like these days with these information flood and everything. You gotta kind of figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good story to, I guess, end the stream on. That's heartening. Where like that, where to hear where some guy like does what he's just passionate about, and he doesn't just work a 9 to 5 job at some company that doesn't know his name and all that, but he's still like surviving. I bet he has a lot of interesting stories to tell.
Yeah, he had. So back then he had a dog, and back then there were the chips for the dogs. So he said, now I had to chip my dog because I'm moving all around. And he was telling stories like, yeah, they were allowing me to get cherries from there, and I was there with my wagon, and he had a bucket full of cherries, and we ate cherries, and so it was cool because he comes around a lot and he gets to know a lot of different people, obviously. Yeah, that was cool. It was kind of. It's always good to know that there are different possibilities.
All right, that was pretty fun. That's
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
I liked it. Depending on how hangover I've been, I thought it went pretty good. Okay, yeah. Let's call it. We don't know what will be the next topic, but
Yeah.
before starting today, we also didn't know what would be the topic for today. So everything as always.
Yeah, it's always just kind of fun to go topic to topic, and then just at some point, like we find something.
Yeah.
Usually, find something like good to talk about for the rest of
Yeah.
the.
You know, it's interesting. I also like this jumping on. Earlier, I heard I was listening to music, and it was also like we were showing each other music, and then always the other person had another memory of, oh, I knew this band that played here. Let's and then it was like ping ponging around.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. Anyway, let's call it. Thanks for I don't know, watching. Watching doesn't make sense. Listening,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe see you next time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Bye bye.
See you later.